Hello, everybody. Today we have a training on the safety training. And it's a good one because it actually has affected some people so far. It did actually affect me the other day, but it's on power outages. We've been having some. I'm not sure if they're rolling blackouts or if it's just happening in different neighborhoods, but it happened in mine. I know it's happened in other people's. I'm not going to name names or anything like that. But it's important to know what to do in such a situation. So we're going to go over just some things that we should have. I have some things here, that are important to kind of go over. What we also have is, or what we're going to go over first is what do you do when you're at program? Because this is kind of a safety training for both at home and program. But a lot of it kind of, intersects. It goes back and forth. So we're going to just go over some questions real fast. So for the first part of the day, we're just going to go over kind of what PG&E says to do, what we say to do at program if it happens, because honestly, it's more up to us just to stay calm and safe in such a situation. We have other people that really are the safety managers for like Spring, Marie, at program. We have people that are specifically in charge of the safety of the program. But if we're on site for any reason, then we need to know what to do in the situation. Like, say we're having a DMV class, a cooking class, or something like that. I mean, let's think about a cooking class as we go through this, and we're on site and the power goes out. So we're going to do some true and false questions. Right now, all we're thinking about is, so we're at program right now. Let's just pretend. Let's put on our pretend world. We are at program, and we're doing a cooking class, and suddenly, boom, just boom, power goes out. What do we do in that situation? Well, we're going to answer some true false questions. Well, the first one's not, but we'll do an open-ended question. And if there's anything I miss, I do encourage you to text it to the group or WhatsApp it to our group, just so we can say, hey, you missed this one. This is another good thing that you didn't discuss. Because, I don't always hit everything, and neither does everybody at program. Sometimes there are things people haven't even thought of. But, it's good for us to all be on the same page, and good ideas are always good to have. They're good back pockets. So first we're going to go over an open-ended question, and then we're going to do some true-false questions. And I'm going to pause for the true-false questions so that you can take some time to think, is it true or is it false? And then I'll explain whether it's true or false and why it's true or false. Okay. So, number one, the open-ended question. What emergency supplies are needed if the power goes out? Well, what do we need first, probably? Well, we're going to need a source of light, because the lights will be gone. And when people can't see, then people run into each other. The good thing is that most of the time we have on our phones exactly the app. We could click on our phones, because as long as our phones are charged, our cell phones, there is an app on most phones now that's a flashlight. So that is one. We definitely need it doesn't even have a flashlight on here, but flashlight, see? There's even one that's not here. But we definitely have emergency flashlights in every room at program. We have to make sure that, and so the second part, what do you need if, say, all our cell phones are dead for some reason, or they're all in the van? There are in each program a flashlight, probably in each room. I think in each room. And so the things that are already taken care of, that there's a flashlight in the room. But what's another thing that you'll need? Say you were at home as well, but say you're at program, what do we need to run those batteries is I mean, those flashlights, I just gave it away, is batteries. So, but again, Spring will make sure, as the safety coordinator, that everything has a working battery, and that's why in the van we check our batteries. We do monthly checks to make sure that even if it starts to get weak, that we change out those batteries, because those aren't going to last forever. So that's one. Um, we're going to need some flashlights. We're going to need a source of light. The next thing, so we're doing a cooking class. What should we do? We should take account of everybody in the room, make sure everybody's sitting. But what else we'll need to do? Well, this just says what supplies are needed if the electricity goes out. So one, we're going to need light. So flashlights, that program. See on here, it doesn't say much of anything else as to what we would need. We just need flashlights. Pretty much that's the emergency. We'll need, oh no, we would want a first aid kit. That is something that you definitely want to do, an emergency kit. So say it was lunchtime and the cooking class was for lunch, and then now it's like, well, now we don't have lunch. So, that way, we could actually figure something out. We could have an emergency kit. There's probably some food. So food would be another supply that you would want. But what kind of food? The main thing you don't want to do after a power outage, and especially if we were at the after school program or in the kitchen, we don't want to open up a fridge. Because what happens is once the power goes out, the fridge is going to go out. And all the food in the fridge needs to stay cold as long as possible. If not, it's all going to spoil. So we don't want to open up the fridge. We want to keep that cold inside the fridge. And just like if you open an oven while you're cooking to check on something, you're letting heat out, and it's going to make it longer to cook, and it's going to throw your cooking time off a little bit. Same with the fridge. When the power goes out, you open up the fridge just to go get something. You're going to let a lot of cold out, and the rest of that stuff is going to spoil faster. So what we're going to need is not cold food. We're going to need dry food. So canned food. That's why we always have the bars and we always have those stocked, the energy bars or the oatmeal bars and things like that. So we'll want some dry food. It is good. Some people will say to have candles, but flashlights are probably a lot safer at program. We don't want to start a fire on top of a power outage. So those are some of the things that we would need at program to make sure that we're safe. So use supplies that don't require refrigeration. And again, we're going to need a medical kit just in case. Say somebody gets scared while we're doing the cooking class and they drop something, somebody gets burned. We're going to want to make sure that we have and in each room we also have our medical supplies. So we'll want to make sure that we have medical supplies there. And again, this is at program. So, at program, there's not much we're going to need. We're going to want to stay where we are. And we're going to want to make sure that we have certain things. The heat's going to go out. So having some blankets, things like that, which should be at program. We have emergency blankets and things like that. We'll have that in each room. So that's another good supply to have. But again, that will go along with our emergency supplies. So there's a lot of stuff that we'll have. Band-Aids, Neosporin, antibacterial ointment, anything that we need that would be really effective. We're also going to need, we're going to need water, which should be there in each room. That's another supply that we're going to need. People are going to get thirsty. We don't know how long we're going to be there during a power outage, so we'll want water. So these are the things that I've thought of. Again, come up with some other things on your own. I'm looking here. There's one here, a radio. So that would be a good thing to have, like an emergency radio. But again, what do you need for that? Because say we're in the after school program, they do have a radio in there, but we would need batteries. So batteries are always a good thing, and Spring has a bunch of them in the office. But we would want to stay put, and hopefully 2 staff members, of which there are. Sometimes there's 1, sometimes there's 2 during a cooking class. but one of the staff members could go over and grab some flashlights for the radio. And that way we could kind of listen in to find out. But again, that's what these things are good for. As long as they're charged, then we should be good. Another good thing to have that some of you have, I have one and I don't bring it enough. I'm going to start bringing it more by another one, is to have an additional power source for this. So you can charge your phone while, the power's out. So, we could actually turn off our phones for a bit and just start charging our phones, build up that battery, and then we don't need the radio as much because we have our cell phones. Let's see, what else do they have on here that we could use? Yeah, another cell phone, radio. If we needed it for some reason, all our phones are uncharged and none of us have a way of charging it, then it would be nice to have a radio so we could kind of listen into things as they happen. Because a lot of things that people think are, oh, that'll work, let's go do that. And we realize, oh, no, that actually doesn't work anymore. There's a lot that goes into the power grid. Okay, so that's part number 1. Now we're going to go over some true-false questions. So number 1, should you run outside when the electricity goes out? True or false? Think about it. Should we run outside if the electricity goes out? Or when the electricity goes out? It's more of a when than an if. The answer is false. We should not run outside. For a couple of reasons. Safety reasons, mostly. But the main safety reason is, what if it's not even like a PG&E power outage? What if it's just specific to our program, and for some reason a line went down outside and cut the power to most of the place, but that line that went down could still be active. And say people start running around and it's dark, somebody could actually hit that line and get electrocuted. So you want to be very careful. We do not want to start running around and doing things like that. Panic, again, which is a safety thing. We don't want people to panic. It's going to be dark. So running around, we're supposed to walk anyway, but, running around is not the safest thing. And again, this is a program. So we're not going to run around. We want to stay safe. We want to stay accounted for with each other. So we can stay in the room and say, okay, who's here? Somebody might have been in the bathroom when the power went out. And so we could count heads and be like, okay, so boom, 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 everybody's here. We should all know who's in their group. Again, staff would have goal sheets and should know who's in their group every day. And then we could do a head count, make sure that everybody's safe, and, be ready to go. I would say another good thing to have is maybe if we had a lamp, maybe not as an emergency supply, but some sort of a handheld lamp, not a flashlight, but a lamp. And I don't think we can have gas-powered ones at program, but there are electric ones that use a battery. But another emergency supply could be games. Make sure that we have games. We have Uno. We could play Hangman. There's different things, because it could take a long time. So an emergency supply could be, just on a table, you have a little lamp, lights up the table, we could play games, we could do our goals, we could work on different things. There's lots of things we could do to pass that time. So don't run outside, basically. Number 2, should you get under a table when the electricity goes out? True or false? Think about it. Did you run outside or go anywhere? Get under a table? The answer is again false. It's not an earthquake. Nothing's falling on our heads. In fact, it's going to be dark, and who knows how dark it might be. So you might accidentally hit your head on the table. You might, and also we're going to do a head count. So if you're under the table and we don't know where everybody is, people, where's so-and-so go? We want to make sure that each person is visible, each person is accounted for, kind of freeze where you are, stay where you are, let the staff kind of get oriented. If you want help out with your phone, pardon me, just had some breakfast. With your phone, maybe turn on your flashlight. The more light we get, the sooner the better. But staying in place is the best thing for them till we get everything kind of calmed down and situated. All right. Number 3. You should go home immediately when the electricity goes out. Is that true or false? And the answer again is false. Reason being, we can't just take off. We need to make sure everybody's accounted for, and also we don't know, like, it might not be safe to drive for the staff to even take you home. It might not be safe to take a bus. It might not be safe to be walking around. So if we can't walk around program, should we be just leaving to take people home? No, we need to wait till we get the clearance that everything is safe to go home. And also, there might be power out at your house. There might not be anybody home at your house to make sure that everything's okay. So should you go home immediately when the electricity goes out? No, we need to wait and do as we do in any emergency situation. We wait, and spring will come around, or someone will come around to each room and say, okay, it is now safe for us to go. Number 4, everyone should go into the lunchroom and wait until the electricity goes back on. True or false? Should we all go to the lunchroom and wait? Everyone. Again, okay, that's false. The reason is that's not safe. It's kind of a fire hazard. Also, it's a panic. The more we can spread out or stay in our own spaces and not clog the space, because people might panic. People react differently in every situation. So the more people you have in a room, the more frightening that situation becomes. The harder it is to kind of keep everybody together. There's going to be a lot more noise. There's going to be a lot more confusion. There's a lot more of a chance of people getting lost, people being displaced. So the best thing to do is keep our heads, stay where we are, stay where it's safe, so long as it's safe, and keep ourselves in that situation. We don't want to be moving about where it's dark, trying to find a place to go where we're not even sure it's safe in there. What we do know is the room that we're in, because we've been in that room. Number 5, someone should continue to flick the light switches on and off so you will know when the electricity is restored. True or false? True or false? Which one is it? Okay, well, these are like all false right now, so because again, that's false. Well, that's not safe to just be like, all right, let's flick the lights. Flick the lights. In fact, what should you do? You should go around and turn off the lights. You should turn off, and again, say we're in the kitchen. What else do we want to turn off? We don't want to turn the fridge off, but we do want to make sure that the stove's off. In fact, if we could unplug, like maybe the TVs and things like that, or make sure that they're off, or anything that we were using, we want to just make sure they're off. We don't want to continue to keep checking on them. It is a huge danger. Because say somebody's there and they're flicking it on and off and suddenly the power goes back on, or somebody's checking on something, you could get electrocuted. You could get shocked. Also, when the power does come back on, there's going to be a huge electrical surge. And we want to make sure that we're not, that everything's off so that, because it could, a lot of things could get broken. But again, a lot of things, fire hazards happen when this happens. So even when you're at home, you want to make sure everything is off. You will know when things come back on. You'll be able to check the street lights, things like that at your house. But we'll go over that later. But no, we definitely do not want to flick on and off the lights to check. No, that's not what we want to do. We want to wait for who? Spring, and if Spring's not there, somebody else will be taking Spring's place as the safety coordinator, probably Amy, or Kevin, or Marie, or Derek, and they'll come around and say, okay, power's back on, you may resume your activity, or we might end the day depending on what's going on for you. Whatever's safest, but they will definitely tell us what's safest. Okay, number 6. Someone should call 911 when the electricity goes out. So again, true or false? Should someone call 911 when the electricity goes out? Okay. Again, it's false, but with a little asterisk, which just means it's false, but in certain circumstances, 911 might need to be called as well. But for the majority of the time, it's not a police or fire emergency. It is a PG&E. Now, will somebody be calling PG&E to check on that? Yes, and again, that's our safety coordinator, Spring, at program. But even if you're at home, you don't want to call 911 because 911's for real emergencies. If we back up 911 with a bunch of phone calls all of a sudden because the power went out, think how many people who might actually be having an emergency. I mean, it could be that somebody started having a heart attack or something bad, a real emergency, right as the power was going out. Well, those people need an ambulance. We, just because we're sitting there and we're like, oh, it's dark now, somebody call 911, the cops will take care of it. No, and the fire department, they have their own things to deal with. Now, it's PG&E. That is who we call. But again, Spring will take care of that. So no, we do not want to inundate 911 with a bunch of phone calls. And number 7. The toilets stop working when there is a power outage. Is that true or false? Is it true? Is it false? Can we finally have a true one? No, we can't. Again, that's false. The toilets will continue to work. You can still flush. They're not dependent. The light in the bathroom won't work, but the water and the toilet will still work. That's a different part of utility. That's water. That doesn't have anything to do with Pacific gas. It doesn't have to do with gas or electric, because there's nothing gas-powered or electric when it comes to the toilets. That's why you pay a separate water bill from PG&E, because water is a whole other thing. So the toilets will still work, thank goodness. And they'll still flush and everything like that. And the sinks will still run. And we'll still be able to soap, another good one. Should be in our emergency supply kit. I mean, we do have hand sanitizer and things, but that's another good emergency thing. All right, now we have 2 more, then I'm just going to go over some basic things, and then we'll be finished. But again, this is good because this has been happening to people. It's happened to me. I actually like the power going out. I don't know. I get a chance to read a book sometimes that I don't, when I'm at home. So, but at the same time, we need to make sure we're safe and that we're preparing to make sure that we're safe. Okay, besides the lights not being able to operate when the power goes out, name some other items that will not operate. And again, I'm going to name some things, and we already have. But I want you to think about it. And if I don't name something, then please text our group or text or WhatsApp us and let us know. Hey, you didn't mention this one. What about this one? This isn't going to work either. Well, again, the fridge is going to go out. We've talked about that. If you have an electric stove, stove's out. Right here is my thermostat for my heater. When I click this on, it takes an electrical charge to turn on my heater, so heat is out, so the heater won't be working. Your water heater won't hurt, so you won't be having hot water. I mean, you'll have the hot water that's in there, but if you use a lot of hot water, if you decide, I feel like taking a shower, or I feel like washing my hands with warm water for an inordinate amount of time, then you're going to lose all your hot water. So these are some things that won't work. Obviously your TV's not going to work, your lamps aren't going to work, but those are, Your phone, if you have a landline, a cordless phone, things like that, that's not going to work. Because a lot of that does actually depend on electricity, so that won't work. There's some really basic landlines from way back when that would still work. I remember when I was a kid. But so those are some items. If you can think of other things, let's see over here. Anything else that wouldn't work? Again, this is why it'd be good to have a radio. So your stove doesn't work, things like that. So there you go. There are some things that won't operate. And then what do you do if the at home if the electricity goes out? Basically what we talked about here, make sure everybody's safe, make sure things are turned off, unplugged, because again there's going to be a power surge. Make sure you have a light source, food, supplies, blankets. Depending, say it's a long one, the heat's not going to work, so you're going to want to stay warm, especially now that the cold weather is coming up. Another appliance, washer and dryer, if it's electrical, which it is not going to work. So getting clean clothes and things like that, it's good to make sure that you have clean clothes. You want to have an abundance of dry food ready to make, because you're not going to be able to really boil water. So, having dry foods in the house is important, things that you can make that don't require heat or things like that. Then again, they have on here, a barbecue pit. So, but again, that's something you want to do with your family. Make sure you're safe and together when you're using it. But then you do have a heat source that does not require electricity. And then you can still make some food. You want to check on your neighbors. First thing you want to do, though, is be safe. Say my electricity went out when it did. I opened the door to kind of check down the street. I checked on my immediate neighbors, and they were all kind of checking on each other, and we're like, well, everybody okay? And everybody gave the thumbs up. But we also were checking the street lights and things like that. A couple of braver people ventured out and kind of wandered around. I don't suggest that, again, because power lines could be down. But, we did kind of check on each other by waving at each other and, making sure that neighbors are kind of seeing each other. But you want to check on your neighbors. Because there's a good chance that, once power goes back on, you'll be able to check and see if say you turn things off really well. And there's another thing you can do. Some people say you can unplug everything if you don't want there to be a giant power surge all of a sudden. Or you can find your circuit breaker at home and pull your circuit breaker. If you don't know where that is, don't mess with it. Because if you accidentally do something wrong, there's usually one switch that takes care of the power to the entire house. If you don't know where that is, don't just start playing around with things in the electrical box. That is not safe. That is a no. Don't do that. Please don't do that. But if you can, just pull that. But the thing is, say you pull that, and your house is completely done and down, and nothing's going to work. But then you see over at your neighbor's house that they didn't do that to their house, and all their lights come back on. Well, that's a good time to check, and then you can turn your power back on, plug everything in, and you can see that things are working. One thing that I have noticed that there are some hiccups. So usually what I do is even when things come back on, I usually kind of stand back and wait, and because it usually goes off again, and then mine did anyway. It went off like 2 times, I think. It went off the first time, then it went off like kind of, and then went down again one more time for maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then came back on, and I was like, okay, we're good now. But the initial one, it went out for a good while. So again, I do hope that you have some suggestions. Please get an emergency kit together for your house. But this is what to do a program if the power goes out. Remember, stay in the same room, stay safe, be sensible, and things will be good. For the second part of the class today, I'll be sending out a quiz that PG&E has done. And you all can take the quiz, let me know how you do. I'll let you know how I do. But anywho, this has been our safety training for today. Have a great day. Stay safe out there, everybody. And I hope to talk to you soon. All right.